Hello and welcome to another episode of Father and Joe. I am Joe Rockey here with Father Boniface. And Father, one of the things that happened during Lent that you notice during the Mass is that the Alleluia goes away. And my son is 3 years old. And quite frankly, the Alleluia might be his favorite part. It's the first song of the Mass that he got taught and he has brought into his heart. He thoroughly enjoys doing it. Um, and that they are Father and the Sign of the Peace, I think, are probably his three, as a 3-year-old mind, his three favorite things. And during Lent, the Alleluia doesn't happen. It's one of the major changes of Lent, one of many. And he has a conversation with me, basically in tears, because again, he's a 3-year-old and something got taken away from him. And just why? I don't like this. I want to have it back. And essentially, Father, I want to run by an answer with you that I gave him to see if it's reasonable and responsible. And I also think it might be a decent reflection as far as why we do this as a church. Again, assuming my answer for why we take the Alleluia away during Lent. And the answer I gave him was Jesus wanted to be nice and take care of everyone. And that's what the Alleluia means. It means thank you for that. But we as a people were mean to him. When I use the word would be sin, but I use an example with him. It's like when you don't listen to your parents and you pout, that's an example of being mean, and being mean is being mean to Jesus as well. So what taking the Alleluia away is a reflection upon we did wrong and we hurt the person who wanted to do nothing more than help us. And quite frankly, without really a good reason. The reason, again, as I did a couple episodes again, I think boils back to fear, but there's not really a good reason if you boil it out. Like, you could have let him do everything he was doing. He was doing it well, and see how it played out. Totally could have done that if you were the priests and Pharisees at the time. It wasn't their choice. So all this to say is there was a conscious effort to do mean to Jesus as a people, and doing sin is part of that. And that's one of the reasons we don't do the Alleluia, to think about that so we do better next time. I have no idea if that's the exact answer. Again, this is me trying to explain this to a 3-year-old, but I felt like there had to be some of that right. Again, going back to the analogy of some of that had to be right. And I'm looking for you, to tell me where I was wrong so I can correct it. But also, if there is the direction there to take this episode, I'd like to take it there.
Well, I have to be totally honest that I am not entirely sure what the history of removing the Alleluia is. And to be clear, we're not violating that by using the word here on the podcast. It's specifically about the Alleluia during the liturgy, during our formal prayer, the Church's prayer. And it's also something that only applies to the Roman Rite. So the Byzantines or the Maronites, they don't have any problem with Alleluias during Lent. So it's a tradition that developed in the Latin Church, and there are some fun things that have developed around it too. We've done it a couple years in the seminary. We're on spring break the first week of Lent this year, but there's a pious practice of burying the Alleluia, and so on Ash Wednesday, a little liturgy, taking a little sheet of paper that says Alleluia on it, and taking it solemnly in procession, and singing some hymns of goodbye. This would be actually the Tuesday, the day before Ash Wednesday, and then literally digging a hole and putting it in a little casket in the ground. And then, because really, there are a number of things like we sort of bury the Gloria during Lent, but not exactly, because it reemerges on, we don't use it for Sundays, but we still use it for the Annunciation and for St. Joseph's solemnity. And if there are other, like St. Benedict's solemnity is also during Lent. So the Gloria doesn't actually totally go away, but the Alleluia really goes away. As another example, in the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, the place where Jesus was buried, and where they celebrate Easter every day. So even during Lent, the Mass settings, the prayers for Mass are the Mass of Easter, because it's
Hmm.
always Easter there. It's always the resurrection there. But they still don't do the Alleluia. So even though you're using the prayers from Easter, you leave out the Alleluia during the celebration, which is funny, you know. But in any event, there really is this strict removal, and then there's a beautiful just little when you have Mass with a bishop, or it's something that the Pope does on at the Easter Vigil. The deacon walks up to him after the New Testament reading from Romans and just says, Annuncio vobis gaudium magnum. I announce to you a great joy. It is, quod est, Alleluia. And he sings that, and then the bishop, or the Holy Father, then sings the threefold increasing Alleluia. That's long and elaborate, and so there's something kind of all about Lent, that we withhold something, not because that thing is bad. Of course, people say, I'm going to give up, whatever, this sinful activity for Lent. It's like, well, no, give that up for the rest of your life. That would be a better idea. But during Lent, we give up some good things, things that are not bad in themselves. We give them up. And then one of the things it does is it helps us to appreciate them more fully. And so holding back the Alleluia for the whole Lenten season, then there can be this eruption of joy when we're able to sing it again. It feels like we've emerged from Lent, this time of greater sobriety, of solemnity has been lifted, and now we're able to be exuberant in praise and joy, and singing forth the Alleluia. And I'll bet you that Joey is going to have a blast when Easter comes and
Mhm.
he is able to say Alleluia again. And so there's a little bit of self-awareness, a little bit of discipline, a little bit of self-sacrifice, a little bit of withholding, that we then bring forth into all the way to through Lent, and then are able to emerge with Easter. And it's a funny thing. So in our community, the Benedictine monastic community at St. Vincent, we celebrate several times a day the divine office. And we always begin, God, come to my assistance. Lord, make haste to help me. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Alleluia. And we sing all of that. And it's exactly the same chant tone. But when Ash Wednesday hits, we leave off the Alleluia. And every time there's half a dozen monks who aren't really paying attention, who will start going, ah, and then, sort of fall flat on their face, and everybody snickers a little bit. And that guy feels a little shame. And, and that we sort of take some steps, and it just helps to remind us we're in Lent now. Things have changed now. We're approaching things differently now. We have a different attitude, an adjusted heart. And we're doing that as a church. So in the church's prayer, we're experiencing that, and we turn as a whole people. It's not just a personal devotion like our other Lenten penances and prayer and sacrifices. It's a communal expression of that. So hopefully I don't know if I missed any of the points you had asked about, but hopefully that caught them.
I think that's a lot of it. The only other part that I really added was the sin part. That there was a conscious choice, and that's why that people were mean to Jesus. But that was I guess that's part of the overall Lent, as we recognize it overall, is that, as you said before, don't just give this up for Lent, this bad sin that you're doing. Give it up forever. But the holding back, and to the point of us getting into habits, we see in your analogy there of your other monks starting Alleluia when they shouldn't, is the power of, once you're going down the road of a habit, which doing daily prayers and that being the daily prayer, and only changing the end sentence essentially, from a grammatical standpoint, it's really hard to change. And that's a good thing. That means the habit has set within you concretely, even if 100% this is like, consciously, I've been told this 13 times, this is the different thing we're doing today, that make sure you don't mess it up. it still will happen because of how deep the habit is ingrained within us. And that's one of the callings of the Lent as well, is, you know, recognize that whether you intentionally did or not, you have created habits. Just we're 2 weeks into Lent now, when this episode releases. Let's just sit back and look at what those habits were prior to Lent and see if there's something that, you know what, I would like to try to cut this out. I would like to try to change this. Because the joy of this time period and the science of the brain is that if you start just today and say, you know what, whatever that thing is, I'm not only not going to do it, I'm going to do something to replace it. So whether that activity was, I don't know, I fall asleep watching things on TV I shouldn't. Well, rather than doing that for that 20 minutes you fall asleep, use 20 minutes in silent prayer. So not only are you changing the activity you don't want to do, you are finding a infinitely better replacement. And that's part of habit development. And if you do that, there is more than enough time within Lent that it will become part of your permanent, ongoing lifetime habit. And that is, like I said, something that we can do. And, you know, each of us have our own little different thing that we wish we would do if we really sat back and evaluated, if I were the most holy version of myself, would I be doing this? Because that's really the question. If you were in your peak of holiness, would you be doing this activity? And it's, quite frankly, it's a yes or no question. It's not, well, maybe, maybe not. It's, no, you'd either be doing it or you're not if you're most holy version of yourself. So if it's in the no category, well, why don't we change one of those? And again, being here in the second week of Lent with this much time left, there is more than enough ample time. And then when we come back, you know, not only is it, in some ways, to go full circle for this episode, listening to the Alleluia could be your Super Bowl victory parade for knowing that you've changed this great thing within your life to make yourself closer to the holiest version of yourself. So, Father, I get that I might have gone a little bit astray from the initial point here, but with Lent, this is the calling, and I, like I said, I wanted to have a little bit of a different perspective, because it can be hard talking to a 3-year-old who doesn't really have logic yet, and it's living in pure emotion, and trying to teach them something that was taught to me through essentially logic. And in a way, I'm discovering the emotional reasoning behind why the faith is what it is, and in some ways, learning an entire new area of richness about why the faith is what it is, and really, by leaning into it, how much more powerful it is than just using the logical side of your brain.
Yeah, that's right. So the more spontaneous response and experience of these things is a really beautiful part of our faith. That we're not just thinking about it, coming up with concepts, but really living it. It's embodied in a very real way, and so it's beautiful to have that reminder, that tangible 3-year-old reminder about these things, and to renew your own faith from that perspective. And for you to be able to find some explanation, I mean, at some level, it's like, well, try it. let's see let's see what happens. We're trying to do this thing. We're all trying to do it together, and we'll see what it feels like when we're done with it. I think there are a lot of things in the faith. Certainly, it was my, having not grown up in the faith and then entering into it, I had a lot of catching up to do, and a lot of that catching up is just having the experience of it. What's it like? And then that's, paying attention to that experience is what has given me the chance to express it now, to find words for it, to try and describe it. But what I describe about the Alleluia is really generated from a lot of personal experience, more so than from abstract concepts. So we enter into it and we try it, and then we notice there's a tendency in our day to approach things with the opposite attitude of, you need to prove it to me before I'm going to try it. And to a certain extent, that I can understand that if it's going to cost a lot of me, if it's asking a lot of me, well, I want to have a reason to believe that there's a good outcome from this thing. that this makes sense, that I really want to do this. And of course, part of the evidence of that is looking around at the other people who are doing it and saying, well, it's working pretty well for them. I'll give it a try. But in other cases, it's like, well, here's one of the things that a lot of people receive from it. Hopefully this is worth it for you, and give it a try. But it's understandable to want those things. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of things we just have to give it a try. Sometimes they say, culture, prayer, faith, these things are more caught than taught. It's the kind of thing we get by being together with others who are doing it, and then we kind of learn it along the way. Just made me think of, I had the chance March 1st to go out to Des Moines, Iowa, and speak at the Forge Men's Conference. And I met a pastor a man, I should say, who had been a Protestant pastor in the Reformed tradition, and over a couple of years had made his journey into the Catholic faith. He just resigned his pastorate at the end of last year, so very fresh. But he said it's the big thing he's learning now, becoming Catholic, is he's trying to catch up on a lot of the vocabulary, on a lot of the practices, trying to catch up on the ways that we orient ourselves to live out, to receive the faith and live it out. And I really appreciated that. He's very conscious of that. And so likewise, I mean, any of our listeners who might be stepping more fully into their faith, who might say, well, this Lent, I really want to do something more, something new, something deeper. Come to more of the parish events, spend more time around faithful parishioners, spend more time in the Catholic space, and discover more of the Catholic Lenten culture, Catholic Lenten practice, and then try it, take it on, give it a try, see what it does for you, see how it affects you, see how it impacts you, see what's hard, see what's not, see what's immediately fruitful. Other things take more time, 40 days or take 40 years. Things take time to set in and really transform us.
Yeah. And it's I think if we take this in conjunction with all of it, it's a journey. There is no one.
That's right.
There's no one turn and boom, we're here. You can't get on an airplane and bypass the terrain you need to go over. It's something that you need to go through, and obviously not be upset that you didn't go the most direct GPS route of doing that. No one has the same thing, because as you do turns and detours, you're going to be interested into seeing new people and having new experiences along the way. And I think that's a big part of it. So we do thank everyone for listening here today as we're going to be concluding today's episode. We thank you all for sharing us, and we will be with you again next week.